story of Paranormal Activity is it is a videotaped recording, in inverted commas, of paranormal activity happening in a house inhabited by a young couple. At the beginning of the movie, we see the young couple in the house. The guy has got himself a new flashy video recorder, which he has got for the purpose of recording stuff which appears to be going on around his girlfriend. During the course of the movie, we see the videotapes that they make. In fact, essentially what we're meant to be doing is looking at the videotapes with no sort of interstitial stuff. It's just the record of what they've shot. And during the course of it, as things start to happen, and I'm trying very hard here to not give away anything, because one of the pleasures of the film is not knowing very much. I mean, I don't think you've probably seen the trailer in which you're seeing the audience more than anything else. Anyway, they are attempting to record what's going on in the house, and at some various points they call in a paranormal specialist, but crucially, between the central characters, there is tension and friction, which is, of course, at the heart of any disturbances. Here's a clip.
These lights have been flickering, these ones that are in the ceiling. We've had water from the faucets turn on and off unexplainably. Okay. Or we'll come down, not turn on and off, but we'll come down and it'll be on. We've heard banging on the walls, scratching sounds, like dragging down the wall kind of scratches. I've heard whispering. Sometimes I can't understand it. Sometimes it's saying my name.
Oh, so it specifically calls to your name?
It has before.
You've heard this too, Mika?
Well, I've heard weird noises. I haven't really heard anyone say Katie's name except for me. That might have been me in my sleep.
I can tell the difference between you saying Katie from over there in the bed and something right here whispering distinctly in my ear.
The first thing is, it didn't scare me. Now, I don't say that like somebody saying, oh yeah, well, I'm above it, it didn't scare me. You know the thing about you go and see a horror movie, you take your girlfriend with you, you go and see Friday the 13th, well, not now Friday the 13th, but in the old days, that's what you do. The idea was, oh, everybody shrieks, everybody ends up in each other's arms. That's one of the pleasures of horror movies. One of the pleasures for men is to go, yeah, it didn't scare me, which is actually not true, because most of the times you are scared, but you just say it didn't scare me. In the case of Paranormal Activity, I really wanted to be scared by it, and I have to confess not to having been scared by it. And the question of why I wasn't scared by it is troublesome, because I think there are things in the film that are clearly very, very well done, and clearly, demonstrably, are working on other audiences. The first thing is to do with the fact that it's shot in the docudrama tradition. Now, if you have a knowledge of all this stuff, which a lot of people do, you go back and look at movies like Cannibal Holocaust, which is meant to be found footage. That gives us then The Last Broadcast, and of course, famously, the Blair Witch Project, which looked from the outside like it was just a found videotape of some people who had gone into the woods and the stuff that had happened to them, only seeing what's on the videotape. Then, since then, we've had things like Series 7, The Contenders. Most recently, we've had, Cloverfield, which of course had the found video motif. And now, of course, in cinemas, The Fourth Kind, which, purports to have the found video motif. The thing with this is that because I don't ever believe that anything is real, if I'm shown documentary footage within a feature film, I don't believe it's real. The film has to work really hard to get over that for me. In the case of Blair Witch, I did get over it, and I did find Blair Witch genuinely unsettling, and I enjoyed exactly what it was that other people enjoyed about that creepiness of it's like you're watching the real thing, which does date back to Cannibal Holocaust, and of course beyond that back to Africa Radio and the documentary tradition. The problem with this was I never felt enough threatened by the realism of it, and I kind of wished that I had been one of those people who had seen it at a surprise late night screening or at a surprise screening when they were testing the movie out for the first time, not just knowing nothing about it, but actually believing to some extent in the mythology of the film. I wish that I had that, because I remember that strange thing around the Blair Witch Project. There was a kind of frisson around it that maybe some bits of this are more real than you think they are. That's the first problem. The second problem is that there is a structure in the film which relies on very tiny events becoming more and more significant, and you have to be convinced by the eeriness and the power of the very tiny events in order to get you through the langers that happen in between. Now, that's structurally, that's perfectly fine. A tiny thing happens, like a door will move, and that then gives you essentially the creeping terror that will see you through the next 7 minutes until the next tiny thing happens. On the one hand, I applaud the filmmakers for their use of making the small significant. I mean, one of the clever things about the film is that the lock-off shot of the bedroom, which is the shot that we've all seen on the advert, they put the camera on and it's filming them sleeping overnight, and in the trailer you see the lock-off shot, and then something tiny happens, and then we cut to the audience going, "Ah!" Well, I never did, and that was a problem for me.
You have got big hands, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you.
do that.
You and and the thick of it. Are you in the slightest bit interested in what I'm saying about this film?
I was, but I was then distracted by your
my enormous hands.
Kenny
Okay.
Everett size.
Well, nobody in the screening was distracted by my enormous hands. Much as I think, I would love to have been able to. There were
My hair was wafting in the breeze.
Thank you.
By your
There were
hands.
see how I just carry on. There were a couple of moments in which I thought, okay, you're getting towards something now that is going to be. I mean, obviously the frames of reference are very clear. Quite apart from the mockumentary tradition, there are whole sections of it that owe an awful lot to The Exorcist. And I don't say that just pat. I mean, the fact of the locked off shot of the bedroom, the shot of the door. I mean, one of the posters for The Exorcist when it first came out in 1973 was literally an image of a half open door, which said, "That's the door." And people thought that was absolutely terrifying. And clearly, the filmmaker is aware of his horror heritage. But in the back of my mind was this. If I wasn't a horror fan, if I was somebody who didn't watch horror movies, would I find this really scary? And what I think is, if you're not somebody who perennially goes to horror films, you will be scared by Paranormal Activity. It will do what it says on the tin. If you are somebody who regularly goes to horror films, you will have possibly the same problem that I had, which is, yep, I can see that, I can admire that, I know where that's coming from, have seen this all before, you're doing it fine, but I'm not scared. However, to be completely honest with you, I know that Nigel Floyd, who knows about horror films and has seen all those films I'm talking about, was creeped out. So it might still work for you on that level. So what I'm saying is I went in wanting to be scared. I came out understanding why some people were scared, but I'd be lying if I told you that I was scared, and that bothered me. What I really wanted to be was genuinely given that shiver, that chill, that sense of unease, that sense of the uncanny. And of course, inevitably, as the drama progresses, the sense of frustration around it becomes more so. So I think, it's amazing what they've done with tiny resources. It's a very, very good exercise in if you've completely got everything stripped down, this is what you can achieve. And it demonstrably works with an audience. And like all breakthrough horror movies, Exorcist will be a case, Blair Witch will be a case, it is in the end finding its market with people who aren't horror fans. Huge horror hits are horror films that work with non-horror fans. And I can't deny that it's working with non-horror fans. But for me, I felt there was a level of unremarkability about it.